Hello everybody, I'm Zenith Variant GAY25, the cutest of ghost buns, and welcome back to First Impressions, where I give my initial thoughts on a game after completing it over on my gaming channel. We are on our third game now, and it's about time the title of this show actually meant something, since after all, I had never played Sonic CD up until this Let's Play.
You dare to impugn my honor?
Unlike Sonic 1 and 2, which have been re-released on many different platforms, Sonic CD has had relatively few releases over the years. While originally touted as the greatest Sonic game you've never played, and the highest selling game on the Sega CD, the console was not exactly a bestseller, and many people missed out on this entry. Luckily, the game was later ported to the PC and finally placed into the Sonic Gems collection on the GameCube and PS2. Even then though, Gems collection was often overshadowed by its sister game, Sonic Mega Collection, which couldn't include Sonic CD due to storage constraints.
Big sisters always beat little sisters. That's just the way it goes.
So it remained somewhat niche for a little while longer, up until 2011, where Christian Whitehead remastered the game for PS3, Xbox 360, and mobile devices. This is the version which would later be placed into Sonic Origins, making it available for the Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox systems, and Steam, meaning now the whole world can experience this long-forgotten gem. So hop into your DeLorean and buckle in as we travel back in time to take a first look at Sonic the Hedgehog CD.
See you in a minute.
I think the first thing I should mention before we begin is that I replayed Sonic CD far more than I did for previous Bun plays, mainly because Sonic CD can be played in numerous different ways, and there are quite a few releases of the game now. While I did play the original version of Sonic 1 and 2 before Bun plays, those are shorter games, and only the Taxman versions change things up in notable ways. However, for CD, I played the Origins version, the version on Sonic Gems Collection, and the PS3 Christian Whitehead remaster. In the end, I ended up playing Sonic CD 11 times for this video. Yeah, Sonic CD has a lot more to do for full completion, and there's a lot to discuss for each version of the game, so let's get the base game and story out of the way first. Much like previous games in the series, Sonic CD has a very simple story, although I was shocked to discover that there's quite a bit more in the manual this time around. For Sonic 1, it boiled down to Dr. Eggman, and yes, I call him Eggman now, don't ask me why, it just feels more natural, being evil and turning the animals into robots, so Sonic has to stop him for the first time for the last time. Aside from the fact that he gains his super speed from his power sneakers, which is dumb, there really wasn't much to the story. For Sonic 2, the manual mostly discussed Tails, but it was otherwise the same plot, with Eggman now, after the 7 Chaos Emeralds, atop his new base of operations, the Death Egg.
Oh, the deuce?
Very straightforward and simple for the time. Sonic CD attempts to do a bit more with its story, going a step further by giving us fully animated opening and ending cutscenes utilizing the power of CD technology, to store the added memory. These scenes were hand-drawn by Toei Animation, and they are simply beautiful. But they also do a better job of introducing us to the plot and getting us into the game if we didn't have the manual on hand, which I never did. Sonic Origins goes one step further and gives us new cutscenes showcasing more of Amy's introduction. So, for Sonic CD, Sonic is out traveling one day in a place called Never Lake to see a planet that comes down once every year known as Little Planet. When he arrives though, he notices that it's been chained to Earth by Eggman, leading Sonic to head to the planet in order to investigate. Following him there is a starstruck girl known as Amy Rose, who is in love with Sonic and decides to tail him after her tarot cards told her she'd be destined to be with him. Unknown to either of them, Eggman has created a new robot rival to Sonic, known as Metal Sonic, who he plans to use to go back in time and convert Little Planet into his robotic dystopia. There is a bit more here in terms of backstory and setup, but it's really the standard affair at the end of the day. Eggman is up to no good, using time travel to steal the time stones and turning animals into robots once more. Man, Doctor Strange must be sleeping on the job. He's supposed to be guarding the time stone.
Alright, bye-bye.
With that being said, if I'm being honest, Metal Sonic and Amy Rose feel like they were wasted in this plot. Amy shows up for all of one scene, hugs Sonic, is kidnapped, and then we have to rescue her. She is nothing more than a damsel in distress, which is a shame because I like her in later games. Metal Sonic is just as bad, but for a different reason. He is only there for a single boss fight where he races against Sonic and is stopped by a single wall.
Crash.
But that's it. All of the other boss fights are once again against Eggman, and that's disappointing. You introduce this badass new villain and have him be the main antagonist, showcasing him in all the promotions for the game, only to use him as one boss in the second to last zone?
Disappointing.
That's so anticlimactic. At least have him as a mini-boss or several end bosses before the race. Hell, Silver Sonic in the last game put up more of a fight with his hair alone. Granted, I do love Metal Sonic, but that's mostly because of my history playing Adventure 2 Battle against friends. Here, he is really just wasted potential. As for the rest of the story, it's basically your standard clash against Eggman, but this time it involves
time travel.
Sonic has to travel through the past, present, and future to take him down, and there are different endings depending on several factors. You could gather all the time stones by chasing down UFOs in the special stages, or you could travel to the past via the signposts and destroy the robot generators for a good future.
The choices are yours and yours alone.
There are many pathways and choices in Sonic CD, and I gotta admit, I was overwhelmed at first. I mean, you already have time travel in the game, but aliens too? This game flung me through a loop from the get-go, and I was very overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff to do. If you beat the game normally, you get the bad ending, where you defeat Eggman, but he uses the time stones to reset everything, so now you gotta do it again. However, if you win after the time stones or the generators, Little Planet thanks Sonic and leaves, taking the time stones with it. While it feels like a standard Sonic plot, it is essentially more exploration-oriented than ever before and offers more freedom to the player. However, that freedom does come with a cost. There are 3 different playstyles to the game: getting the time stones, getting the robot generators, and getting neither for the bad ending. There was so much that I had to do, and it wasn't just left to right level design anymore. There is a higher emphasis on exploration for the signposts to take you to the past and future, along with the locations of the robot generators, so level design is far more vertical and cryptic as a result. Now, to be fair, you can still complete levels very quickly, and if you know where pathways begin and end, you can still approach this as a standard Sonic game. But that's not how the developers want you to play it. Especially in the second zone, Collision Chaos, where the level feels nearly unfinished, with the excessive spring placement, these mountains of rock that block your path at random points, or these damn bursting balls that impede your progress. What even are they? I was so confused at first, because I was used to other Sonic games where things were far more straightforward, including the level design. However, the recommended way to play Sonic CD is to explore your environment, use the post to travel to different points in time, and see the level design change to accommodate this mechanic. By traveling through time, you will see different variations on the level, complete with different level design and music to reflect the current environment. Sonic CD desperately wants you to travel through time, because while the present zones are just okay, with time travel it becomes an amazingly varied experience with so much to do and find in each level. On my first playthrough of the game, I was convinced that I just didn't like Sonic CD and that perhaps the game was just okay. However, after playing through the game a few times in different ways, I can really see the appeal now. Sonic CD is a game that grew on me in the first 3 playthroughs, with the first run focusing on the special stages, while I had a much better time in the second half because of the improved level designs of Stardust Speedway and Wacky Workbench. I felt that it was still a bit lacking, and the special stages really hurt the pace of the game. The second time I went for the bad ending, and man, it felt far too short. Yes, it's around the length of Sonic 1, but I wanted a bit more from it given the game's larger memory. Then, in my third run, I went for the robot generators, traveling through time the entire way instead of just sporadically, and everything finally clicked into place. Sonic CD is not about traveling from point A to point B. They truly wanted to do something different here, and by implementing time travel and objects to destroy in each stage, it becomes much more of a treasure hunt, and each stage gets bigger as a result. You could travel left to right, but there's a metal Sonic projector off near the beginning of the stage that you didn't see because you were in the wrong timeline. Do you want to see the good future by the end? Or do you just want to travel to the apocalyptic future? There's so much more freedom for the player here, and the replayability is off the charts. I played this game so many times for this video, and I still haven't seen everything, which is commendable. However, that freedom comes at the cost of level design. I still feel the level design is not as smooth as Sonic 2, and there are things I straight up hated, such as some elements of Collision Chaos, Wacky Workbench, and Metallic Madness. Yeah, I didn't need to see the return of bottomless pits and crushers in this game. Also, what the hell is up with the mini Sonic segment? Just why? This is really a make or break point of contention for people. Do you prefer the speed and challenge of Sonic 2, or do you want the ease and freedom of Sonic CD? I gotta be honest, I'm a bit torn. On the one hand, Sonic CD adds in a save feature, finally, which saves the game after each zone, making it far less of a marathon and helping me get through the game that much easier. Thank you. Not to mention, the game is just much easier as a whole, thanks to better boss design, a final boss that you can fight with rings for once that isn't bullshit, and overall consistency in its design. On the other hand, Sonic 2 has far better level design, far more loops and corkscrews to get you into the sense of speed that you need, and has some of my favorite boss concepts overall. I overall think Sonic CD has the better bosses, but there are some weird ones like the pinball boss, which just sort of ends, and the challenge is just getting there. The piston boss, which is just right out of nowhere, and took me a while to figure out how to even damage it, and the easiest boss ever, the bubble boss, which just uses bubbles as a shield and not much else. Yeah, not your best design, Eggman. Not by a long shot.
Well, we all make mistakes.
Nobody cares.
At the same time, there's so many interesting boss ideas here, like one where you have to destroy parts of it to proceed, or the one in Wacky Workbench, which you have to climb up using the physics of the level. While some may be weird, they all use the theme of the level to teach you how to defeat the boss, and that's design I can get behind. Well, aside from the final boss, but that's just the bottomless pit. Fuck the bottomless pit. Mini Zenith segment. Like Mini Sonic. Why is the segment even in there? Why do we even have that lever, Crunk?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
As for the music, Sonic CD has both better and worse music than Sonic 2. The American OST is good and atmospheric, plus Sonic Boom is quite the bop and has grown on me over the course of this time period, but it's nowhere near as good as Sonic 2's catchy as hell music. But then, I heard the Japanese soundtrack of the game, and it blows even that out of the water. The Japanese OST is currently my favorite classic Sonic soundtrack, with just so much to love. The opening track, You Can Do Anything, has this wacky, weird energy to it that gets you pumped and feels like the opening to Yu Yu Hakusho or DBZ at times. It is very anime. Each track not only fits its respective stage, but dynamically changes to the past or future to give one of the most dynamic soundtracks I've ever heard, and never overstays its welcome. Not to mention, they are all catchy as hell, and feels like it's party time with how much these beats make me want to dance. It's like breakdancing Eggman on overload. And dear God, this boss music is just superb. The maniacal laugh whenever you enter a boss room, followed by the sinister party music, makes me so pumped to fight them regardless of the boss. The Japanese OST is just so damn good, and I can't get enough of it. I have been listening to it on repeat through 11 versions of the game, and I am still not tired of it. that being said, the question I posed back in the primer was, is this the Sonic 3 that we've been missing out on for all these years? And the answer is, not really. I see this as more of a Sonic 2 by a different team, especially since it zigs in places where the actual Sonic 2 zags. It has a save feature, but 2 has better levels and sense of speed. It has better exploration and music, but lots of weird points, especially the lack of Supersonic being playable in the game. No Tails either, just Sonic going through the stages unless you're playing the Origins version of the game. I'd put it just below Sonic 2 in terms of quality, because once you play through the game for the generators and travel through time, it gets ridiculously fun and opens up, but there are glaring issues that hold it back from greatness. This is the true sequel to Sonic 1 that Naoto Oshima wanted to make, and it shows at times, like with Collision Chaos feeling just as slow and clunky as Marble Zone. Unlike Sonic 1 though, there was no point where I wanted to put the game down. I wanted to keep playing, and I think that's a testament to improved level design from the original Sonic. Unfortunately, I don't think this game is for everyone. It has a lot to love, and I do love traveling through time for future playthroughs, but man, those UFO special stages are something I did not need. Look, they're better than the Puke Bag Zone from Sonic 1, and are far less tedious than Sonic 2's half-pipe memorization, but it's still motion sickness inducing in places and just doesn't mesh for me. I got the hang of them and only had trouble with 2 major stages, but overall I kept asking myself why aliens are here and what this has to do with Sonic. And why am I timed with water draining the timer? Is it because Sonic can't swim?
It's lucky I fell in the kiddie pool.
The more I learn about Sonic, the less he makes sense. Make more sense, damn it! I feel like Naoto Oshima was a bit too ambitious with CD because it is a lot for new players, and I've seen many people say the level design is awful when I mentioned it on Twitter. It's not exactly what many were expecting, but it's still fun if you know what you're doing, which I only did after 2 playthroughs of the game. It can also be frustrating though, and that shows at the beginning of my Bun plays of the game. In addition to these 3 ways to play CD, there's also Time Attack, which is my favorite mode in the game. I do adore the time travel of the base game, but Time Attack gives you 1 life and challenges you to complete the stage as fast as possible by any means necessary. You can choose any stage at any time and just jump in, and that is even more my speed.
I understood that reference.
I managed to easily get the time to under 25 minutes for my run of the game on Sonic Gems Collection, and I liked it so much that I did it on the PS3 remaster and twice on Origins. I played through the game 4 times in Origins for Bun Plays, twice for my main account, twice for Sonic Gems Collection, and 3 times for PS3 Digital if you include all the Time Attack runs. I was happy to do so though, because Time Attack adds such a different perspective to the game and level design. It allowed me to appreciate some design decisions more and see why they chose specific level gimmicks, although it does make Wacky Workbench and Metallic Madness such a slog because those 2 stages drag on far longer than others in time attack mode. These segments were not built for time attack. I do not believe that. As for version differences, I played the Origins version first, which gives you the ability to restart the stage at any time, helping the exploration element tremendously. It also autosaves every time you get a generator and lets you retry special stages with coins, so this was definitely the easiest version and the one you should try first. As for the Sonic Gems Collection release, I played it on GameCube thanks to the generous donations of patrons, and I think it brings something different to the table. This is based on the original Sega CD release, meaning the special stages are basically unplayable due to the pop-in of the UFOs. I tried it once, said fuck it, and then went right back to the robot generators because that is where the game truly shines. Gems Collection also gets far more points for having digital copies of each manual in the game, including both the PC and CD manuals for Sonic CD. It still mentions Princess Sally and spinning, so that's weird, but there's also a control map in the game that shows us how to roll. Wait, it says spin here too. I have confirmed that rolling is real during the Let's Play. Why do you keep lying to me, Sonic? What are you trying to tell me? It also doesn't mention the super peelout at all, and I can't decide if that's better or worse than Origins calling it the dash. It's also here where I first tried the time attack, which unlocks sound mode, where you can listen to the entire soundtrack at your leisure, or visual mode, where you can see behind the scenes tidbits and opening and ending cutscenes of the game. There's a lot to love about this version, but there are problems. There's some major collision detection issues carried over from the original version of the game, and I found myself stuck on springs, crushers, and the edge of spikes a lot. It's not game-breaking, and it's far more prominent in late game, like the race against Metal Sonic, but it does get annoying when I get stuck on the edge of a spike. I'm just trying to jump over it. I also really hate this version of the spin dash, which absolutely sucks since you can't do it on a dime and have to wait for it to fully rev up, which slows down the pace. Thankfully, you can choose to use the original spin dash in digital versions of the game, which is also where you could first use the Japanese OST, since the Gems Collection only used the US tracks true to the original release, which is a bit annoying, not gonna lie. Like, the Japanese is just so much better. Certain stages are also just worse in the original, such as the extremely tight timing of disappearing blocks in Metallic Madness, which is frustrating, or the crushing blocks seemingly having an easier time hurting you here. Although, with the collision detection, you can somehow hug the wall next to the crusher before the final boss. It's weird, but fun, and helps you avoid that dumb bottomless pit. Finally, we have the 2011 Christian Whitehead remaster on PS3, which served as the basis for the Origins version. The menus end up being slightly different, and although I prefer the way they look here, since it's much cleaner and is easier to navigate, altogether that's a minor change. Another change I noticed for this version was that the opening and ending themes of the Japanese version don't have any vocals, which is rather disappointing. Origins fixed this, thankfully, although they did take out Sonic's voice lines for getting a 1-up and waiting around for 3 minutes, which is a shame. Finally, I noticed that the time travel tricks in Quartz Quadrant have been removed entirely. In the Gems version, you can use the vertical conveyor belt to speed you up enough to travel through time, but here, it just doesn't work. I am not sure if it works in Origins because I learned this after the fact, but this is an auto mission, to be honest. It makes time travel much harder in that stage. That being said though, since this was the version Origins was based off of, we also have it to thank for some pretty major changes, like giving us the old spin dash back, and getting rid of the collision issues, and better graphical upgrades. 2011 also autosaves far more often, including every time you reach a special stage, meaning that if you're about to lose, you can simply pause and try the stage again. I really like this inclusion, although I wish you could retry even if you fail like in Origins, but you can't because the game autosaves right after you fail the stage. With that being said though, one thing I didn't know until later runs is that Sonic CD cycles through special stages if you fail, so it's not the end of the world. I failed twice on PS3, but still managed to get all the time stones and had a far easier time than before now that I knew this. Seriously, the game really needs to start telling me these things. I don't have the manual. Finally, 2011 has most of the same unlockables as the other versions, with visual mode and sound mode unlocked via time attack, but it brought a lot to the table with it when it comes to trophies. Origins has trophies as well, but whereas that version shares a trophy list with the main trilogy, the 2011 version has a list all to itself, meaning much more trophies to go around. There are the standard trophies for getting a hug from Amy, clearing the main game, and traveling through time.
Great Scott!
However, 2011 ups the ante by not only asking you to destroy all the robot generators, but the metal Sonic projectors as well, which is why I got them all in every run that I played. There's a trophy for getting all the time stones in this version, so I had to do another playthrough for that, which was only the second time I've gotten them all. Yeah, I know there's time attack mode for special stages, but honestly, fuck that. I am not doing that yet. Maybe for the Sonic Origins extras, because it does unlock stuff, but I'm not doing that yet. There's also trophies for defeating Metal Sonic without taking damage, which takes practice and patience.
You might know everything I'm going to do, but that's not going to help you since I know everything you're going to do. Strange, isn't it?
A trophy for taking the high path in Collision Chaos Act 2, which I didn't even know existed, and finding a hidden Angel Island statue in Wacky Workbench, which was incredibly well hidden. Finally, there's the trophy for completing Time Attack in under 25 minutes. I practiced numerous times over numerous games to get good at this, and managed to get it in 23 minutes and 42 seconds, which I consider amazing and is the entire reason I started Time Attack in the first place. These trophies force you to play the game in completely different ways, and I applaud it for that. I think this is a fantastic version of Sonic CD, and while Origins makes it a bit redundant to go back to, the trophies alone are a good incentive to do so, and they aren't all that hard to do. Overall, I highly enjoyed my experience with Sonic CD, but it is certainly not for everyone. I see now why people adore it and call it one of the best, but I also clearly remember my first playthrough of the game and how overwhelmed I was by all the different things you can do in the game. It needed more focus for certain aspects of the game, and while the ability to save at the time is a godsend, there are plenty of drawbacks that not everyone will be into. I still recommend trying it out on the Origins collection to see if you're interested and play in an explorative way. It's a fun game and not without merit, so give it a chance. Not to mention that in the time that it took to release this Let's Play series, Sega has since come out with an update to the collection titled Sonic Origins Plus, which, among other things, has added both Knuckles and Amy as playable characters to CD, meaning that while it isn't my favorite game in the series, there will still be more than enough reason to come back to it for years to come. And this is seeming like a pattern because they did the same thing with Sonic Mania. And I can honestly say that after making my way through CD, that I am indeed a Sonic fan.
One of us, we accept that one of us. Gooba gobba, gooba gobba, one of us. One of us, one of us, one of us.
Sonic has a lot to offer, and I am very interested in seeing where this journey goes next time. Also, just wanted to give another huge thanks to my wonderful patrons who made getting the Gems collection possible for this series. It may not be original hardware, but it was damn close, and it allowed me to experience the game in a new way. Perhaps one day, if I get enough patrons, I'll be able to afford an original Sega Genesis, Sega CD, and 32X to build my own Tower of Power. But for now, this was good enough for me. With all that being said, next time we're heading into more new territory for me as we dive into Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, which many claim to be the best classic Sonic of all time. Will I agree? Well, only time will tell. In any case, I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest of buns, and I will see you all next time. If you like what you see, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you too can join the Bun Squad, my legion of cute, fluffy bunnies who watch my videos. You can also check out my gaming channel in the description below, on the banner of my channel, or in the info card up top. Plus, while you're at it, please feel free to vote on the poll we're running for the next franchise we cover after the classic Sonic block. And as always, don't forget to hit that bell to get notified of every new video. Have a good one, everybody!